Tonight on First at 9 this Sunday the 16th of November 2025. Trust issues. Opposition urges transparency over US-Lanka defense pact. Dynamic duo. Sri Lanka to expand trade, investment and business cooperation with Gujarat. Disappointed. Government medical officers to go on strike tomorrow over a disappointing budget. School development officers to spend the night in front of the Presidential Secretariat over delayed teachers' appointments. Better than cure. Sri Lanka to set up Drug Prevention National Council Office. Drug Prevention Committees to be set up across all state and non-state institutions.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on the Derana News channel. I'm Advertisement joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms. Recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, your top story tonight, the United States and Sri Lanka signed a memorandum of understanding at the Ministry of Defense last Friday to enhance bilateral defense cooperation between the two nations. The MOU signed as such invoked the wrath of the opposition. The opposition urges transparency and demands that the government reveals all details related to the agreement, stating that the government's actions in entering into the bilateral agreements have been suspicious throughout.
The agreement formalizes collaboration between the Montana National Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard District 13 and the Sri Lanka Armed Forces under the U.S. Department of Defense's State Partnership Program. The agreement is expected to pave the way for enhanced cooperation in capacity building, joint training, humanitarian assistance, disaster response, cyber defense, peacekeeping, CBRN response and leadership development. U.S. Ambassador Julie Chung and Adjutant General of the Montana National Guard Brigadier General Trenton Gibson signed the agreement on behalf of the U.S. government, while Secretary of Defense retired Air Vice Marshal Sampath Tuyakonta signed on behalf of the government of Sri Lanka. However, several opposition parties expressed concern over the obscurity of pact and urged the government to table the agreement in Parliament to bolster transparency.
The
president has entered into an agreement with the US military based in the Pacific. He must submit all pertinent details of this pact to Parliament. As the Minister of Defense, he has no right to compromise this nation's sovereignty to the United States or any other country. Previously, Mahinda Rajapaksa signed the ACSA agreement. However, he submitted it to Parliament. To continue the pact, Ranil Wickremesinghe also signed a similar agreement, which too was presented in Parliament for scrutiny. Therefore, this new agreement must also be tabled in Parliament. The President also failed to disclose the defence agreement signed with India. This agreement must definitely be released, since we see a clear attempt to draw Sri Lanka into global conflicts. On the 5th of April, 7 agreements were signed with India, none of which have been released for public scrutiny yet. Similarly, a few months ago, the government signed a bilateral defence pact with the Japanese Ministry of Defence. No light has been shed on that pact as well. On Friday, the NPP government and its Defence Secretary Sampath Tuyakonta have yet again pulled off another blunder by signing a defence pact with the United States represented by Ambassador Julie Chung. Shouldn't all Sri Lankans be privy to the content of these pacts? Australia, Japan, the United States and India are all members of the Quad dialogue. Signing agreements with Quad states indicates that the government is aligning itself with the United States. When the incumbent government was in the opposition, they would hold demonstration after demonstration, yearning for transparency over similar pacts signed by previous governments.
Don't catch anything.
An English proverb says, "Do not catch something that you cannot throw away." That proverb is highly relevant when signing agreements with powerful nations. Once signed, we may not be able to withdraw from such agreements even if we want to. Therefore, we must be cautious. We have serious concerns because this government has neither the intelligence, the knowledge, nor the experience required to negotiate such matters. When we raise concern, the government points the finger to India and asserts that there is no push for transparency over these pacts in India. India. The government then goes on to question why we push them to disclose these pacts given the contrasting circumstances in India. The difference is that the people of India trust their government. Unfortunately, we do not trust ours.
ආණ්ඩුවට බලපෑම් කරන්න කියලා ඉන්දියාවේ ජනතාව ගිවිසුම ප්‍රසිද්ධ කරන්න කියන්න උවමනාවක් නැත්තේ ඉන්දියාවේ ජනතාවට තමන්ගේ ආණ්ඩුව විශ්වාසයි. නමුත් අවාසනාවට අපිට අපේ ආණ්ඩු ෂුවර්.
බොරුව රජ වෙච්චි ඒ බොරුව ආගම කර
The government, which lies religiously, deceived the public through deception. However, unlike them, Mahinda Rajapaksa never signed any secret agreements. He was direct and transparent with his actions. In contrast, this government has reportedly signed 7 agreements with India and 15 agreements with China, the contents of which remain unknown to the public. Only they know the content of these pacts. Our country no longer feels like a sovereign nation. It feels more like a local council. External powers move our leaders like puppets to fulfill their wishes and fancies. Sri Lankans must wake up to reality.
නටවන්නේ. ඒ හින්දා රටේ මිනිස්සු අවදි වෙන්නට ඕනේ.
ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමය forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
අප වෙනුවෙන් කැපවූ ලංකාවේ අපේ අංක 1 ජාලය ඩයලොග්. දවටනේ නියම මිල සඳහන් ස්විස් ටෙක් නිෂ්පාදන මිලදී ගන්න. ස්විස් ටෙක් ගන්න ඕන හොඳම තීරණය.
Sarvajana Balaya leader MP Dilith Jayavira disparaged the defence MOU signed by Sri Lanka and the United States and went on to invite the opposition to collectively question the incumbent government over this alleged conspiracy. Jayavira urges caution against government deception and calls on the opposition to rally behind a unified national strategy rather than organising simple protests.
The establishment of Sarvajana Sabha in the Vevahamanduva division in Mathura was held today under the patronage of Sarvajana Balaya leader parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira.
මට ලොකු විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා.
I am certain that under the leadership of someone like Vijay Veera, the JVP would never have allowed individuals of such low caliber like the present administration to come forward. Vijay Veera had a vision. He stood for nationalism. Recently, the government signed a defence MOU with the United States. Does anyone know the content of that agreement? As someone who attended the JVP's 5 classes along with the incumbent president, I asked Anura Disanayake if he had a spine intact when he signed this agreement. They also signed agreements with India, and to this day we know nothing about them. Now there is this new agreement. How do they have the right to sign such agreements? I invite the opposition to raise concerns on this conspiracy together. Holding a simple demonstrations at junctions with heavy traffic is not enough. Not just the opposition, the entire nation must come together to discuss the way forward. I warn the people to not be deceived by Andhra and Ranil. Many lies spun by them are being churned out at several meetings. All of this is a plot designed to destroy the true national movement rising above all others. Therefore, I say to the opposition, if you truly care about this country, do not fall victim to conspiracies. We are ready to unite on a common national agenda. We must unite and we will unite, but not according to present terms.
අපිට එකතු වෙන්නට පුළුවන්. අපි එකතු වෙනවා. අපි එකතු කරනවා. හැබැයි මේ විදිහට නෙමෙයි.
Now, meanwhile, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry signed an MOU paving the way for closer trade ties and business collaboration to benefit both regions. Addressing the media after the signing, Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India, Maheshini Kolonne, hailed Gujarat's development model as one often admired by all Sri Lankans and highlighted key trade opportunities which could yield mutual benefit.
The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry recently signed a Memorandum of Understanding in Ahmedabad, Gujarat to strengthen bilateral trade, investment and business cooperation between Sri Lanka and Gujarat. Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Maheshini Kolonne, signed the MOU during her visit to Gujarat, marking her first official state-level engagement since assuming office. Under the MOU, both chambers will collaborate to promote business opportunities, facilitate joint ventures and partnerships, organize B2B engagements and enhance knowledge sharing between the private sectors of both economies. The partnership is expected to deepen maritime and logistics cooperation and build on the complementarities between Gujarat's major ports and Sri Lanka's role as a regional transshipment hub. Speaking to media, the Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India hailed Gujarat's development model and highlighted several trade opportunities that could yield mutual benefit.
I conveyed to the Chief Minister the greetings of the President of Sri Lanka. I explained to him that the people of Sri Lanka have been watching Gujarat's progress and development for long years, and that the people of Sri Lanka actually look to the Gujarat model of development as a model, in fact. both people in Gujarat and the people in Sri Lanka are both seafaring nations. We both have deep water ports, and Sri Lanka handles a large volume of India's transshipment trade. And when our Prime Minister was here last month, she emphasized that India can use Sri Lanka's ports as gateways to the world, in fact. So we discussed all this, and then we also discussed about opportunities in textiles, pharmaceuticals, hospitality industry, tourism. I think the areas for cooperation between Gujarat and Sri Lanka are limitless.
Now, Prime Minister Dr. Haruni Amarasuri emphasizes that it is the responsibility of Sri Lanka's education system to foster a skilled workforce capable of capitalizing on foreign employment opportunities and transferring economic benefits to the country. The Premier made these remarks during the 40th anniversary celebration of the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment. Joining the same event, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijay Herath said the government envisions all Sri Lankan workers being sent abroad in the future to be skilled professionals.
The Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment celebrated its 40th anniversary last evening.
We will introduce a new Foreign Employment Bureau Act. Before regulating foreign employment agencies and expatriate workers, the Foreign Employment Bureau itself must be regulated. The best way of doing so is digitalization. All activities of the Bureau are being digitalized. We have no personal relationships with any foreign employment agent, and job quotas will not be assigned based on such relationships. We will not perpetuate the culture of charging commissions from agents. There are 2 more months left in this year. Within those 2 months, we will definitely achieve the target of $7.5 billion worth of foreign remittances, the highest annual remittances in Sri Lankan history. Initially, most workers who went abroad were unskilled. However, as of now, 78% of expatriate workers are skilled employees. The goal of making all Sri Lankan expatriate workers skilled professionals is definitely achievable. What we must really be doing is not encouraging people to leave the country but making the country a place they want to live. The government's chief responsibility is to create a production economy and expand local employment opportunities. While we execute the duties of the Foreign Employment Bureau, we are also mindful of that ultimate responsibility.
The chairman told me what the Bureau expects from and encourages expatriate workers to do is skilled, ethical and safe migration. That is the same objective I fought for during my time as a researcher. It gives me immense joy to know that that fight has become our policy. As the Minister of Education, the responsibility of creating skilled workers falls on us too. Our responsibility is to identify the requirements of the labour market and transform our human resource into one that is appreciated globally and is in demand.
ලෝකයේ ඉල්ලන මානව සම්පතක් බවට පරිවර්තනය කිරීමේ වගකීම අපි සතුයි. Your Excellencies, I also want to make a particular request to all of you. When we send our citizens to your countries, we expect that you will make sure that they work in proper conditions, that they are taken care of and that they are protected. The protection of our workers has to come through a mutual arrangement. As much as we are responsible, you are also responsible for ensuring the safety and protection of our workers.
Taking you to your political developments, United Republican Front leader Partli Champikaranavuka raised concern over a possible fraud being committed by the government in importing double cabs sans the 200% tax. With that, let's take a look at several other political thoughts shared over the government's decision to import double cabs.
සමාන එන්ජින් ධාරිතාව තියෙන
President Anwar Dissanayake, who imposed a 200% tax on SUV motor vehicles, has removed the tax on double cabs within the same specifications and engine capacity. Subsequently, he called for tenders to purchase 1,750 double cabs. This is a scam at least 7 times larger than the sugar scam. Because of this Hilux procurement, billions of rupees have been lost to the country.
මේ හයිලක්ස් රොබරිය හරහා බිලියන ගානක ආදායම අහිමිවීමක් මේ රටට කළා තියෙනවා.
මේ ඩබල් කැප් ටෙන්ඩරේ
This double cap tender is the most unsuccessful and corrupt tender in the history of this country. They allowed only 2 weeks for the national tender, which is usually held out for 42 days in order to eliminate competitors. Furthermore, even though it is part of the budget proposal, the tender was called before the budget was even tabled.
අය සම්මත වෙන්න කලින්ම ටෙන්ඩරේ දාන්න. මරුනේ
වාහන එපයි කියලා විපක්ෂ කියනේද?
The opposition is rejecting the vehicles at the moment, but let's see what those who reject them will do once the vehicles arrive. The newcomers would prefer to have a vehicle. I think they are trying to communicate something else. Perhaps they prefer vehicle permits. Please remember that we will not issue any permits. The government, which said they do not need vehicle permits and would use public transport, now imports vehicles to satisfy their MPs. NPP MPs can now travel comfortably in a luxuriously while the public continues to wait on buses. That is the reality. There are 82,204 vehicles in the government's fleet. Why are they importing new vehicles when so many already exist? One cab costs 22 million rupees. If they are to be acquired on lease, this is clearly a major scam. We were given the power because the opposition was not performing its duties correctly. People who have governed this country for 76 years are asking us to correct everything within a year. Aren't they ashamed? The public supports the government.
Now, the Government Medical Officers Association announced that it will proceed with its planned island-wide trade union action from 8 a.m. tomorrow, citing the budget's failure to resolve their long-standing grievances. Meanwhile, school development officers who had been in service for nearly 6 years staged a protest today in front of the Presidential Secretariat, urging the government to uphold its pledge to integrate development officers into the teaching service.
The Central Working Committee of the association convened promptly. At the meeting, a decision was reached to launch an island-wide trade union action from tomorrow onwards. Accordingly, doctors in all hospitals will restrict their services to essential functions only. This includes limiting the issues of prescriptions requiring purchases from external pharmacies, as well as recommendations for laboratory tests carried out outside government facilities. GMOA members will also refrain from participating in any clinics other than their routine sessions. Furthermore, if the government intends to set up new units, the cadre of the qualified medical officers required to staff that unit must be duly approved. We will not endorse or support any new unit that lacks this approval. We expect the government to step in and provide solutions to long-standing concerns affecting this sector. However, should these issues remain unresolved, we are prepared to escalate our trade union action further.
Meanwhile, the Association of Medical Specialists announced that they will resort to trade union action on the 24th and 25th of November if the government fails to address their demands within the coming week.
Our primary request is the replacement of this existing additional duty allowance with a standardized fixed allowance. Secondly, we call for the provision of a transport allowance for medical officers. Thirdly, we urge the government to establish a dedicated service constitution for specialist doctors, one that is streamlined and better aligned with our professional needs. We intend to present these demands through comprehensive discussions over the coming week. If the government does not respond positively, we will withdraw from all private medical services on the 24th and 25th of this month. However, should the government continue to neglect meaningful solutions, medical specialists will step back from all health-related services, including the public service, on the 26th and 27th. Thereafter, we have resolved to commence a work-to-rule trade union action.
In a separate development, a group of school development officers staged a protest near the Presidential Secretariat today, demanding that the government honour its election pledge to integrate school development officers into the teaching service.
Everyone standing here today is a qualified graduate. What right does the government have to cast them aside after relying on their dedicated service for years?
However, with no officials arriving to hear their grievances, the protesters decided to continue their demonstration into the night near the Secretariat.
Do what you do, let the world look up to you. Shoot what you see, be who you wanna be. Search with a smile, create your own style. Gemini live, make moments come alive. Be anywhere, rock anytime. With awesome AI by your side. Be anywhere, rock anytime. Be brilliant, be always intelligent. Download fast, stream it all night. One tap, move, everything feel right. Snap it clean, edit like a pro. Smarter with Gemini, let the magic flow.
Introducing Samsung Galaxy A17 5G. The power to be always intelligent.
හමු සහ ෆීනික්ස් නත්තල් ෆියස්ටා නොවැම්බර් 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
Welcome back. Now, Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs Ananda Vijaypala reveals that several circulars will be issued tomorrow to set up drug prevention committees across all state and non-state institutions. The minister made these remarks during a program held at the Kaluthara District Secretariat Auditorium today.
In the wake of a recent uptick in narcotics-related crime, several raids and operations were launched over the past few weeks under the National Anti-Narcotic Initiative, A Nation United. One of the raids carried out on the 12th of November led to the arrest of 7 suspects in Kirinda, Tissa Maharama. The suspects were arrested with 329 kilograms of methamphetamine in their possession. The Western Province North Crime Division, which led the raid following a tip-off received, later uncovered the stock of methamphetamine seized to have been smuggled into Sri Lanka by sea. Off the back of subsequent investigations, the authorities yesterday located the multi-day fishing trawler suspected to have been used in the smuggling operation. Along with the trawler, law enforcement authorities also arrested 5 crew members on board the vessel at the time. The arrestees were produced before the Tissa Maharama Magistrates Court today, where the police were granted permission to detain the suspects for 5 days. In the meantime, the Kaluthara district operations of the National Anti-Narcotic Initiative were reviewed today at the Kaluthara District Secretariat Auditorium.
The
issue has escalated further, bringing about more social misery. That is why the government decided to eradicate this menace from society. The foundation of that endeavour has been laid. At the moment, we are setting up a network encompassing the entire society. Furthermore, through the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration, we will issue a circular mandating the establishment of drug prevention committees in all ministries, departments and institutions. Another circular will be issued through the Secretary to the Ministry of Education, mandating the establishment of drug prevention committees across all schools, universities and educational institutions. We have also advised the Secretary to the President to issue a circular instructing the Secretary to the Ministry of Community Empowerment to set up similar committees in non-state institutions. The Drug Prevention National Council Office will be inaugurated on the 22nd of November in Torrington. Its emergency hotline, which is currently operated by the Presidential Secretariat, will be 1818. When the service was launched, we received 800 complaints during the first 3 days and the number of complaints increased to 1,000 within the next 5 days. The tip-off shared through the hotline have led to several raids so far.
With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
Police have apprehended the suspect involved in the attempted sexual assault of a foreign woman in Tirukkovil. A video circulated on social media showing the suspect indecently exposing himself to a 24-year-old New Zealand national. The suspect, who had altered his appearance, was arrested in Kalmunai by Tirukkovil police. The arrestee is reportedly a 25-year-old father of one residing in Kaluwanchikudi. Meanwhile, a businessman was arrested in Kurana Nigambo while in possession of a foreign-made firearm approximately 6 inches in length. The suspect has reportedly told police that the Belgian-made Browning-type pistol was given to him by his late father. In other local news, Governor of the Southern Province Bandul Harishchandra passed away at the Colombo National Hospital this morning. The late governor was 62 years of age at the time of his passing. Final rites are scheduled for next Tuesday at the Samanala Stadium in Galle.
The annual Linoid meteor shower, one of 2025's most dazzling celestial displays, will peak tonight at midnight and early tomorrow morning. According to astronomer and senior lecturer Gihan Veerasekara, the Linoids produce fast, bright streaks as Earth passes through the dusty trail of comet Tempel-Tuttle, which orbits the Sun every 33 years. The meteors appear to radiate from the Leo constellation, rising in the east and growing brighter towards dawn. The clearest viewing is expected between 4 and 5 a.m. when sky watchers may see 15 to 20 meteors per hour. Welcome back. Now in your business news, Sri Lanka's tourism sector continues its strong rebound, with new data showing nearly 2 million tourists recorded by mid-November and earnings surpassing $2.6 billion in the first 10 months of 2025. Meanwhile, India continues to remain the leading source market as tourist arrivals consistently rise ahead the year-end season.
Sri Lanka recorded $2.6 billion in tourism earnings during the first 10 months of 2025, according to the latest report issued by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Earnings for October alone reached $186.1 million. The central bank noted that cumulative earnings reflect a 4.9% growth compared to the $2.53 billion generated during the corresponding period in 2024. Sri Lanka has attracted 1.97 million tourists as of November 12th, reaching the halfway mark of its target of securing 3 million tourist arrivals for the year. This figure includes 82,270 tourist arrivals recorded between the 1st and 12th of November. According to data from the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, the highest number of tourist arrivals for the month of November so far was recorded on the 8th with 7,742 tourists visiting the country. India continues to be Sri Lanka's top source market with 20,217 Indian tourists visiting so far in November, while the Russian Federation trails in second with 10,668 Russian tourist arrivals. A significant number of tourist arrivals were also recorded from Germany, United Kingdom, France, Australia and China.
That's all for tonight from 1st to 9. For the latest developments around the clock, stay in touch with Other Derana News channel, the Sri Lankan brand of international excellence. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.
From across the nation and around the world, this is Sri Lanka's #1 news source, Advertisement.